Okay, so this is going to be a review of our year so far, starting with opening our AutoCAD here, which should be on your toolbar for quick access. And then we're going to open a file by going to New Drawing, and we always want to make sure that we begin by opening our basic template, which is a DWT extension. Open that up. We should have something that looks like this. And if anything is missing from your toolbar, so they aren't laid out like this, you'll want to go to Window and Reset Palettes. This will close out AutoCAD and open it up, and everything should be displayed as you see in my screen here. So we have a number of different toolbars. Starting with our toolbar here on the left, we're going to begin with the line command. And we can draw a line a number of ways just by clicking. So I can click here, and then you'll notice in my dynamic input, as I move my line, it's letting me know how large it is. So here's a line that is 6 units in width, and you'll notice it says 0 degrees. And I can hit Tab to toggle between these two, and 0 degrees, and then as I move it up, I can change my degrees as well. So we can manually enter inputs. If I want a line that was 6.5 and I wanted it exactly 45 degrees, I can type 45, hit enter, and it'll draw that line. And now I'm ready to do my next line from here, which I can do the same thing, or I can hit escape to end the line command. Next tool we talked about was our rectangle command. We can access this by the toolbar or by hitting R. And again, this just allows us to draw rectangles like so. And then the circle tool. Start by drawing the center point of our circle and then a radius. And then the polygon tool, which in our Mac version, to get to it, you got to kind of click this unit here, and you can see the polygon tool is located here, or you can go to Draw and down to Polygon, or like any CAD command, we can type it from the keyboard. If we just start to type polygon, it'll let us know that POL is the command for polygon to run the whole thing out, or you can even type the whole thing out. Hit enter. It's going to ask us how many sides we want to our polygon. So I could say 10 sides. And just like a circle, it's asking me to specify a center point. Click on that, and there's 2 flavors of polygons, either inside a circle or basically outside a circle. So I'll choose inside a circle here, and then as I specify my radius, you can see that moving around. So, move my line out of the way here. And then, let's see, that was pretty much it that we covered. The only other thing that we sometimes draw are points. And that's under draw and down point. And we'll just do a single point. So if I wanted to specify a point there, click point. Okay, now if I want to dimension some of these objects, I'm going to go to a different layer. So instead of my object layer, I'm going to put all my dimensions in my dimension layer. Go to Tools, Draw, or Dimension, and Linear will measure just pure height and width. So these are excellent for rectangles here. So for example, measure from this point to this point, and I'll place my measurement right there. A little bit. And then by hitting enter, I can just repeat the last command. Click here and here. Put a measurement there. And then I'm going to draw one more from this point to this point. And you notice that was 4.8. But now let's say I want to know exactly how long this is. If you recall earlier, I think we said it was 6.5. So to measure that, we're going to have to do an aligned measurement from this point to this point. I don't think I did that right. That was quite on the right point there. So we'll go from this point to that point. Not sure why that's off a little bit. And then we have a radius, which is for measuring the radius of a circle. So that was a radius of 1.5, or we can also put the diameter, which is all the way across. And diameter is always twice the radius. And then we have a number of drawing aids here at the bottom. The first one is to snap to our grid line. So you'll notice when I select, say, my line tool, as I move my cursor around, I'll zoom in a little bit, you notice it jumps from intersection to intersection on these boxes here. This is snapping to our grid, which is a nice way to quickly draw items that are pretty precise as long as they will actually need to be placed right where these grids are. If I turn this off and do the same thing, now you notice my cursor isn't jumping around, and I can now place a line anywhere. So zigzag right along here. Then our next tab over here is to turn our grid off and on. So. And then this next one here is ortho, which only allows us to move our cursor straight up or sideways. So excellent for drawing parallel and vertical lines. You can see no matter where I click, it's always going to draw a straight line. This is also handy for, say, moving objects. Say I want to move this to make it larger or smaller, or move this object here. You'll notice no matter where I move my cursor, it's just following this line here. And let's see. Next was our object snapping, which is this guy right here. If we have our mouse set up correctly, we can right-click on this and go to Settings. And these are all different points that we can snap to. Usually in class we keep all of these on, but in a certain circumstances we can toggle these on and off. But we can snap as we move around. We'll notice all of these symbols here will appear. So for example, we have our endpoint, middle point, and center. So to demonstrate those, so I'm going to draw a line. I can have it go from this endpoint. Here's an endpoint, see that square here. And so now when I zoom in, no matter how close I zoom, I can see that this is snapped perfectly to that point. Or if I go to the outside of this circle area, then you'll notice this little white cross here shows up in the center point. That's a point that I can snap to for center. So I just want to go, say, to the center out. I can do that. And then the other one was midpoint, which was a triangle. So I have this line along here, and you notice as I get kind of close to the middle, I get that triangle, letting me know that's the exact midpoint. So I can very quickly snap to, say, all these midpoints here. I can zoom in and see that these are all snapped perfectly. And the last snap that we learned was the tangent snap, which is a little tricky because we have to go into our settings here and actually turn them all off, with the exception of tangent. And now when I draw a line, you notice when I get on the circle, I get that tangent line here, and then as I draw my line, see how it moves around the circle? So it finds the exact perfect spot to put my line on my circle to go from a point to a point. So now that I'm snapped to that, I can go through and turn on, say, endpoint, and I can snap to, say, right here. So now I have a line that's snapped perfectly to there, and then enters my circle at the exact spot to where that would be a smooth intersection. Let's see. And for zooming, a number of different ways of zooming. Most commonly, we just use our mouse wheel to zoom in and out. We can also hit Z for zoom, hit enter, and in our command window here, we can see it's now asking us for a number of different commands for zooming, and extents, which is E, will give us everything that we've drawn so far. So it's zoomed out perfectly to where everything I've drawn so far is included in my image. This is handy if you happen to have, say I'm going to have a circle way out here, and I'm working on this. Now when I go Z and E, it's going to zoom all the way out so I can even see this object here. So it's a good way of kind of finding objects in your image that you don't want. Get rid of that. Do it one more time. We can also go Z and A, which will zoom out to what we call our limits, which in my case you can see here is the edges of our grid. And that's pretty much it for zoom. The next one is pan, which let's say we are working close on an image and I want to just move to my right a little bit. Fastest way to do this is to push down on your mouse wheel if you have one. That'll make your cursor turn into the little hand here, and now I can just very easily grab my whole sheet and move it over. I can also hit P for pan, hit enter, and now I'm kind of moved in this mode here. Hit escape to get out, or you can just hold down your space bar, and that will also move your image around. And this you don't even need to push down on your mouse for. Okay. Next command is trim. So say I have this object here and this line, and I want to just get rid of this part that's hanging off right here. So I'm going to type in TR for trim, shortcut for that. And the first thing it's asking me to do is to select what we call our cutting edges. And for now, we're just going to hit enter. And then now it's asking us to select our objects to trim. And if I can click right here, it'll automatically make that disappear. Say I want to get rid of this here, kind of clean this up a little bit. So anything I can just keep on clicking on whatever I want to get rid of lines that I don't need. When you're done with the trim command, hit enter. That'll get rid of it. If you have a lot of items to trim, say I want to trim all of these at the same time, I can hit T for trim. Oops. TR for trim. I'm going to hit enter again, and then I'm going to hit F for fence. And I'm going to start here, and I'm just going to draw a line all the way through these objects. And I can keep going, and if I had other objects here, cut through these as well. So just think of this as sort of a knife, and anything you cut is going to disappear. So I'll hit enter here, and you notice it got rid of all these objects except for the objects that were left over from what we trimmed before. So these we'd have to delete manually, so I'll just select those and delete. Next one is fillet, which is used to round edges. So it's fillet, and it's pronounced fillet, not fillet. And I'm going to hit R for radius to specify a radius. I'm going to go 0.25, and here I just hit two edges, and it will round them like so. Hit enter to repeat the command. So we can also hit P for polyline, and then say I want to round the edges of this entire polyline. That might be too big here. Let's see.
Well, it's 180 minus 22, actually 158.
Oh, it did it. So you can see here, all my edges are now rounded. And if I were to check the radius, it'd be 0.25, exactly what we set it to. Next one was chamfer. Which here I could take an edge, and I'm going to hit D for distance. It's going to ask me two distances, so I'm going to go 0.25 on one side and say 0.4 on the other. And then say I want a line to go across here, and it's going to be 0.25 on the top and then 0.4 along the side. So we're going to dimension this. Let's see, 0.25, and the other one, sorry, 0.4. Say we have a distance and an angle. In that case, I'm going to hit A, and our distance will say it's 0.5, and our angle is, say, 18 degrees. So here I'm going to go distance and angle. And then now, if I check my distance, you can see it's my 0.5, it's already written there. And then now I'm going to dimension and go to angular. And with this I can click, say here, here, so it's 72 degrees, or here, and here, and this was the 18 that we put in. And last command was dtext, which is for adding text. Say I want to put something right in the middle here, and I want it to be justified in the middle center, so I'm going to hit J here for justify, and then MC for middle center. So you can see here it's asking me to specify the middle point. Put that right here. Actually, snap to my grid here so I get right in the center. And the height, we'll leave it at a quarter, and then rotation 0. Text. And then you hit enter once will take you to the next line, or enter twice will end the command. Say I want to put this in our text layer, so I'm going to click on that and go to text. So now put that in our text layer. And that's pretty much it.